Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Studio 44. Phil Sherman here from Rochester, New York. Again, I guess it's not really Studio 44. As you can see, I got the Respect the Pick studio behind me, but this is a weird video and for a couple reasons. First of all, look at the fancy outline I have, huh? Or the fancy framing. That's because I got help today. Ladies and gentlemen, with me to record this live. You're obviously not going to see it live, but recording this live, you asked for it. You got the collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him, you love him, Mr. Suel 21. How's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me on today.
Dude, it feels weird saying having you on because you're the dude running the show.
I'm just the background guy. That's all I'm doing today. It's just doing
well,
the effects.
well, every time I try to do this, me and my nephew tried to stream for Respect the Pick. Anytime we try to do something like this, the technology fails me, or I fail the technology, or something. So we tried it again. It didn't work. Yours stepped up, and it works just fine. So
Yeah, it's
I'm
probably just
happy
dumb
we're
luck.
able. It could be. But I mean, obviously, looking at the presentation of both of our videos, yours blasts mine right out of the water. So definitely fun having you, and I think it's for a good cause. Two YouTubers who care about this stadium creator tool that we know and love so much.
Yep,
It could be
maybe
better
a bit
though.
too much.
I know I love it a bit too. My wife will tell you I love it a bit too much too. We're here because we want to give a wish list. Here's some things that should be fixed. Here's some things that we would love to see. I try to point out the things that they did right. The ability to blend props together. Wonderful idea.
Yeah, thank God
Those
there's
kinds
no
of
prop
things.
collision.
Right, yeah, prop collision, ugh, that would be terrible, but you made up a little list. If you wanna check out my wish list, I have another one way back when I first started. So I figured we'd start with your list, go down the line. I started out with things that are pretty obvious to everyone. The first thing on anybody's wish list has to be get the damn bullpens off the field, right?
Yeah, that's the biggest complaint. It has to be.
People do such a good job of creating these custom bullpens and they look so great and so creative using different props. Like I've seen people use that orange umbrella
Yep, for
to
the
make like
mound.
a hill. It's such a fabulous idea. I can never get myself to do it because they're going to be there whether I make another one or not. So I say, why bother with the memory or stuff? But
Hmm.
I give so much credit to you guys who, because I know you've made some cool ones.
Yeah, and
Um,
I pretty much took the idea from another creator I saw where you sink the street lights into the dirt just because it's
yep, yep,
easy. It gets
yep.
the
Use
point
that as
across.
Uh-huh. Use it as like a pitcher's plate and then the home plate and stuff like that.
Yep.
But I think it's a pretty easy solution. Give us a one prop, and then you can put them right next to each other, or you can put them on opposite ends of the stadiums or in opposite gaps,
Hmm.
wherever you want to put them. Or you make like a two-tiered one, like they have in like Baltimore and Cleveland. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Or put it on top of a
That
building
seems
for
like
all if you want, if that's what you're into, Make a goofy stadium.
exactly. Right, and if you don't put one in, just show an animation of it underground. The Cubs spent millions of dollars to move theirs under the stands, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
do
below
something
right
like
field
that.
now after they won the World Series. They built that with the money they got.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. The major league teams are spending millions of dollars to get these pieces of trash off the field, and if you want these stadiums to be authentic, you got to get rid of them. I think in our last attempt at trying this, you pointed out that there's only two stadiums left that have bullpens on the field, right?
Yep.
And they're Oakland and Tampa Bay,
Yeah,
which
and
happen
Oakland's
to be
going
the
away,
two
so we're down to one.
exactly the two biggest pieces in the entire league are the only teams left to have bullpens on the field. So I think that one's pretty obvious.
Yeah, and that's one of those things I'm sure it's from a programming standpoint, but if there's a way to fix it, please. Please.
The other obvious ones to me, home run fences.
Hmm.
You gotta fix the windows,
Yep.
right?
And
For
add
whatever
colors to
reason,
match all the, let me throw a blue window right next to it because there's, the blue and the green. The green works, the blue's broken. I don't know why.
right, and that's a step back because you told me, which I was surprised, that this is your first version of Stadium Creator that you've ever played.
Yep.
You never played the original, you never played 22.
No.
So it's mind-boggling to me some of the steps back, and that's one of them. How do you go with not letting blue windows get put next to each other? That's got to be fixed.
Yeah, it must be a collision thing there because they are slightly different. If you look in the top right corner, the blue ones, there's like a little piece that's just a tiny bit bigger, and I think that's what's setting it off.
Oh, I never noticed that before.
Yeah, if you zoom way in and look
Interesting.
at it and get real particular with it, you're like, oh, okay, I bet that's what it is.
But you're also right. Like they have brick frames and they have wood frames or walls. They have brick walls and wood walls. You need frames to match each wall.
Well, and the big one for me too is like the green windows look great on brick, but we have red walls with no red windows, and I've run into that a couple times.
Yeah, I mean red with the green frame. What is it? Christmas?
Yeah, I
We
mean that's what I
use
did. It
Christmas
was my
presents
Christmas
for your
window.
colors. So that's frustrating to me too. So you got to go back and fix that. And you know it's fixable because they did it in the other games.
hmm
I know it for a fact. I have stadiums where I used it all the time. I rarely ever use any other color wall but blue.
Yep.
And I've had those windows right next to each other because you use it as a wall and then put the laser ribbon right behind it, and it looks like you got a laser scoreboard right in the home run fence.
Right, that's another thing. Bigger windows would be great too for the scoreboards. And like I like throwing the out of town scoreboard on the wall, but you know, when it's cut off, I gotta line it up just right. It's never gonna be exactly perfect, but you know, it works.
Right. Or how about just make it a prop? Instead of hitting
Yes.
the button and turning it into a window, turning it into Ivy, you turn it into a scoreboard or a sign. That's another thing you said, right?
Yeah, the advertising, because we see that in almost every stadium now.
Almost every stadium in the world. Exactly. And then the other thing with the home run fences, you got to put the home run distances on the wall.
Yes, it makes no sense. Put the home run distances and that yellow line on top because every single stadium I think is required to have those.
I play in crappy high school stadiums in my baseball league that I play in. I'm 45 years old. I play in this super amateur baseball league where some of these stadiums have numbers on the things
hmm
on the signs. How do
Yeah,
you not
my high
have the
school field did
distances?
too.
Yeah, I mean, come on. That seems like an obvious thing. And I've said it so many times in videos that I've created before, when you adjust the signs or the walls, the distances, they show them to you right there.
hmm
Why can't the distance, instead of being plastered above it, plaster it right on the fence itself?
Yeah, and the only text that we get with numbers in it is the worst one in the game. It's got that weird wood pattern. It's got that weird lip on it. Like it's cool for old school stadiums, but it ends there. You know.
I may cry hearing you say that. Because I agree so much. That's one of the biggest things I complain about Stadium Creator is the fact that none of the other fonts or the lettering props have numbers except for that crappy one. Ugh, thank you so much for saying that. I'm so glad to hear that I'm not the only one who despises it.
Yeah, small
It
fix. It'd
is,
be easy, right? I mean,
you would
I
think.
would think. I don't know. I don't know anything about programming like that, but I would think it's just
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And then also falling into the lines of home run fences is the collision sensitivity in the gaps. You mentioned that, and I've
right.
had the
Yeah, it's
same
like
issues.
anytime the field dips back in, you get a little bit of that negative space. It creates a
Mhm.
dead spot, and I kind of get it from a programming perspective where they don't want anything hanging over the field and interfering and making weird ballparks, but it shouldn't be quite as sensitive as it is.
I agree. There has to be some way to fix that. The anomalies, thanks to whoever discovered that hack and made it so,
Yeah, if you're
you can
watching,
take
you're the
care of
first
that
one to do it.
problem,
Thank you. That's made. So it's such a game changer.
right? The problem is you only have the batter's eyes to work with,
Yeah,
because
you got to get real creative
reason,
with it.
the batter's eyes aren't affected by the sharp turns in the home run fences, so you can put them wherever you want. I mean, you could actually put them on a field. I mean, I don't know why you would, unless you're ESPN 6KT, or what is it, 6KTA?
Yeah,
I don't
that
remember,
when he puts
but he
like he makes the whole field blue, right? He was that was
yeah.
who it was, right?
Oh my god, it was so cool. I showcased the one he wanted us to do, the Griffey Park. Did you see that one yet?
Yep, yeah, I watched that one.
I'm gonna steal that star idea for the Hollywood Stars in the Ricky Davis League. I think
Yeah, that was
whoever
pretty
builds the
cool too.
stadium.
He wanted me to feature the blue one too, and I tried to do it, and it kept crashing my game because I play on cloud gaming, and it just
Oh,
I
okay,
must have been overloading the internet or something. I don't know, it couldn't handle it,
gotcha.
and it was just like it's a cool stadium. I want to feature it, but I talked
There's
to him
other
about it. I'm like, dude,
versions.
I don't know, I can't get it to work.
There's other versions of that stadium that are actually pretty cool too. Before he even threw in the blue field,
Oh
so it's
yeah,
not just the blue field. That's a cool stadium on its own.
okay.
But yeah, I mean, if you have anomalies, unfortunately, like I said, they're the only ones you can use to combat the alignment issues. But the fields that I use the sharp corners on are the Brooklyn field, where it's got the high wall and then it slopes down and jets right back, like in
Hmm.
Baltimore, their renovations. And the ballpark at the Moonshot Casino down the right field line, it comes out and then jolts real back far. And you can't get anything wedged in there close to either home run fence. So you got this big dead space.
Well, and
So I
even
use
with
the
like I can't remember the name of my park where I did it, the old school Brooklyn field. I can't remember my own stadium design names, but when you move the fence straight back like at Ebbets Field, you still can't put anything in that corner. So you got to kind of make a dead space there and make it look somewhat like put a garage door here or something like that to make it look like they're storing something. But yeah, it's
yeah,
still
that
super
makes
sensitive
sense.
right there too, and it
Yeah,
doesn't make sense. Like there's nothing. It's foul territory.
right. I mean, and there are stadiums that have that kind of dead space. Like I remember Toronto did because they had the elevated, like that first deck over the home run fence, and then there was space underneath. But even they did their big renovation, and now that dead space is kind of gone.
Yeah, it looks a lot
So
better. I would say the biggest dead space I think is the center field in Tampa Bay where they got the big garage doors out there as their backdrop for the batter's eye, but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
Tampa
yeah.
Bay. Like it's
Well, yeah, everything about that stadium's crap. But we got a new one coming apparently, right? They got designs for it, and
yeah, that's what I heard. I don't know if it got approved or what they're doing, but they've
I
been
think it's a pretty big shock to everybody that it's going to be so close to where the old stadium is now, because I thought that was part of the biggest problem, right? Was the location.
right. Yeah, no one's attending the games.
So I don't know. I guess they're counting on having the new stadium make it worth it to take that crappy drive. I guess no one likes crossing that bridge or whatever to get to the stadium, but I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't been there, so I couldn't really weigh in. Been to a lot of stadiums, but not that one.
So we talked about placeable numbers on the wall. Are you talking about the distances, or do you mean like retired numbers? Because that would be a cool thing
Oh, that
too.
I didn't think about that too. Yeah, I was just talking about this the distances. It's a must have.
Okay. And the ads. We definitely talked about the ads. And you said something about in Texas, right? You like it was like painted on white.
Yeah, so and I think Oakland had it too, where they were painting on the yellow against the green walls. Texas has just white ads; they're not the full color. They do have some full color ones higher up on the pillars, which add pillars to the game too. That's another prop I really want to see. I can't make it look like anything I put is holding it up without building giant walls.
Right. So I mean that one could be kind of tricky, but I definitely see where it would look cool.
Yeah.
But I mean I don't see why they can't work something out where the signs that they have can't
Hmm.
just be turned into a message that can be, plastered right on a wall
Right.
as like an option to put on a wall. I mean, I guess it would have to depend on what's the size of the wall it was, but
Yeah, but you can have certain props at different sizes, and like if they don't fit, they don't fit. Then you have to make a wall where they fit. I don't have a problem with that.
right.
I would just like to
Um,
see the ads in like multiple sizes and not where they're on billboards with the light sticking out. Just give me like a plain fret, like a flat prop, and if I want to build something around it, I will.
yeah. Some of them are flat like that, but you only get
There's a
one
few.
size. Sometimes it would be nice to have, those smaller ones, but you're right. It's got the stupid old school like green frame. I
Yep.
hate all those green frames.
Yeah, they're great if you're building, like I said, an old school stadium with a lot of brick to go around it. But other than that, they just look
Mhm.
out of place.
Yep.
And like
And
the play ball advertisement, I really like, but you only get the one really huge one.
yeah, that's a good one. I like those when you have a nice big space you gotta fill in, but you've had too many scoreboards already.
Hmm.
Another thing real quick that needs to be fixed with the walls, I notice all these weird lines everywhere that I don't remember being in previous versions of the game. There's like these little black squares
Yeah, they happen
and
at night. I know what you're talking about. It's like I think it's called artifacting or whatever, and I'm not sure why it happens because then it's really when I play, it's really inconsistent. Sometimes I'll see them, and then sometimes I won't, depending on
ex-
when I'm playing.
exactly. I don't understand why that's a thing now all of a sudden. I mean, I guess it's kind of a you have to take the good with the bad, and the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Sometimes there's a plus and a minus to every change you make, and maybe they fix one thing, but it causes another problem. Again, we're
Right.
no
And the one that
coders,
it's
so we
really
don't
bad
know.
on is if you use like the wood at all. Like it looks fantastic during the daytime. You flip it to night with the lights on, and it's like, oh my god, like this looks awful.
But it's not just those. Recently, I've been seeing like lines. like the padding wasn't tall enough, so there's like a straight line, and then they had to add an extra pad on top of that.
Oh,
I'm
I
I'm
haven't
looking at my
seen that.
current
I'll have to go
version
back and
of
look.
I'm looking at my current version of the ballpark at the Moonshot Casino right now, and it looks like on this taller wall, even the shorter wall, the pad wasn't tall enough, so they had to glue on an extra pad or something. I've never seen that before, and all of a sudden
Interesting.
it's a thing. So that's another thing that has to be fixed. Now, something that I would like them to add, I would like them to give you the option of that stripe at the top of the wall to
Yep.
show you that it has to go over that as a home run. I think it kind of frames the wall and it makes it look a little bit cooler, gives it a different style than you're used to in Stadium Creator.
Yep.
And I kind of cheated. I saw someone use letters, that blue letter, to kind
Oh,
of
okay.
trace the top of the wall. So I took it a step further and I'm using an anomaly. I'm using the frame of one of the center field batter's eyes to kind
Oh.
of double as a stripe along the wall.
I can't believe I didn't think of that. That's a great idea. I've been using the what I think it's the Bowman wood advertising, and I sink it down so you can just see the top of the wood frame, and that's kind of how I've been
Smart.
doing it. But
Yeah, I
then,
noticed that on the stadium you made for Mark, right? In right field.
yep, yeah, but you can't, you can't continue it over into center field because the batter's eye sensitivity, where yeah, it just
Right.
doesn't let you do it. But yeah, no, using the batter's eye, that's and that's another thing too, that anomaly glitch is probably gonna be gone next year. So
Oh, I hope someone has a way to fix that.
yeah,
That would be amazing.
yeah, come on,
Uh,
modders, we're counting on you.
Come on, that's right. Normally, I hate it when like I'm playing Grand Theft Auto 6 or something like that, and modders come in God mode and blast you. I always hate um,
Well,
modders in that case, but
yeah, well, there's modders and there's cheaters.
right, these modders I love. Give me my anomaly still.
Right.
But hey, I mean they figured out a way to do it in the very first version of the game, and I think it's 21 was the first version. I remember seeing Minnesota Twins center field batter's eye right down the left field line and wondering how they did that.
Hmm.
And back then I didn't think to just delete everything, download the stadium, delete everything, and use that as a prop. It never even crossed my mind. I don't know why, but
Yeah, I would have never
um,
thought of either until you said you did it, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna do that too. And then that's when I made the
I
batter's eye park for everybody to use because that's probably one of my biggest comments I get is, how are you using multiple batter's eyes? I'm like, well, unfortunately, you have to find a stadium and build around it. You can't do it anymore just on your own. So people are like,
yes,
well,
and
I
I
guess I'll
think
start all the way over again.
the whole MLB The Show community thanks you for for making Batter's Eye Park so everybody can have them right there for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a must. I start all my stadiums on that now, but
Yeah, ever since that stadium was created, I don't start a single stadium without it. I even had to go back and rebuild the Moonshot Casino because I never made it with anomalies before. So
yeah. Well, there's always
okay,
ways to improve. I can never stop building on a stadium. I always look and go, oh, I could have done this, this, this. And I look at my memory, it's 99%. I'm like, I'm not going to delete
yep.
anything.
I think I told you last time we recorded. There's a special how they create like behind the scenes of South Park
Hmm.
and Trey Parker, like the guy who kind of runs the show. He said, "I'm so glad we have deadlines because if there wasn't a deadline, I would never get an episode finished. I would keep trying to make it better and keep tinkering with it and changing jokes and changing animations, and it'll never be perfect, but I'll keep messing with it. But since there's a deadline, I just have to, get it the best I can by that deadline, and here it is, and present it to the world." And that's kind of how I wish it was with this
Yeah.
stadium
And there's
sometimes
another
because I
YouTuber I
can't leave
watch
it
too. He does
alone.
stuff on city skylines, and he always just says, "Don't let perfect be the enemy of good," which that's what you have to do.
That's a good saying. I like that. All right. So moving on with the stadium creator, you talk about props,
Hmm.
and I think another thing that's kind of something that everybody wants is fans interacting with the props that are available to you, right?
Right.
Like you have the ballpark eats restaurant with a bunch of little seats in there. It
And they're
looks
all empty.
so dull. It looks so dull and empty, with no people sitting there. And you got all these picnic tables and benches, and you got that clubhouse with bleachers kind of set up right in there, but no people sitting in there.
And the thing that's confusing with me too is like, let's say you use that restaurant that they have in St. Louis out in like left field. When
Hmm.
you play like Road to the Show or franchise, they're up there in that same restaurant. It's the same props. So when I build it, why are
Exactly.
they not there?
I don't know. Again, does it come down to memory? Does it come down to the fact that it's just too complicated to create a fact that the prop that you can move around? I mean, you play games, and if you play a crappy team, there's less people in the stands that
Mm-hmm.
you create, that you place throughout the stadium. Why can't there be, just random people sitting at a picnic table or not? I don't get it.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those nitpicky things, but when you make a great restaurant with all those seats and then you look at them, they're all empty, you would, even on a bad team, you're not going to see that. Like there's going to be somebody eating there.
Exactly. And I mean, I go back to Cleveland. I've been to Cleveland Stadium for two different trips, Jacobs Field, or it's Progressive Field now, right?
Yep.
Next to that big bleacher section in left field, there's a bunch of standing tables where you can, eat and watch the game. There's
Yep.
always someone standing at those tables eating.
Oh yeah.
So that's something I'd like to see him take care of. And if they can't work that out for whatever reason, you need a prop where there's like 3 or 4 stands or 3 or 4 people just standing next to each other,
Yeah.
because then you can kind of place them there. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You can get away with burying bleachers in some of those kinds of props,
Mm-hmm.
but most of them, it doesn't work. Especially if you want to put those, like they have that cool table that kind of sits right up against the wall.
Yep.
You can't set people up there because they slope in towards the field.
Yeah.
Right. And then they red out because they're now on the field.
Yep.
And some people have turned them around, so the top part is the flat part and it's lined right up against the home run fence, but they're backwards, so they're not looking at the game. And I guess that works if they're far away, but I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer for something to.
Right. And I've seen it on because I've designed golf courses on the PGA 2K golf editor, and they have a tool too, which I'm sure it works differently because it's on like terrain that's movable. But you paint an area and you just see it as red, but when you go and you play on that golf course, now there's people standing there. So I would think they'd be able to do something somewhat like that, but
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm guessing a lot of it has to do with how many people they actually think use this tool. And if there's a big community, subscribe to your videos and to my videos, and that whole Reddit thing that's going on,
mm-hmm.
you'd have to think that's enough people to build that where they would want to spend more time on it.
Right. And I think that's the biggest thing is this is kind of a niche thing. I always wonder how many people are actually using this because I mean, I have no idea. I'd be interested to know though.
Well, I was gonna sit back and relax and just wait for the PlayStation 5 to come out. But when I heard you can create baseball stadiums,
Mm-hmm.
I had to shoot out and get one as soon as I possibly could.
Yeah, and that was the same thing with me. I can't believe I didn't find out about it until probably August this year when I first started my YouTube channel. I was like, well, you can create stadiums? Like, why have I not known this? It was in last year's version too. I jumped right on. I'm like, well, let's see how good it is. I'm like, oh, actually, it's not bad. Like, it's pretty cool.
And that's another thing that kind of like I'm disappointed in myself for, because it's such a cool thing. I never thought it would get to the point where it is now. And I feel like I should be grateful for it because, I've created some really fun stadiums that I like, and other people have created awesome stadiums that I use, for the Ricky Davis League or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's just like so frustrating because just these little tiny things, it will be perfect.
Yeah. And
But the
the
main
closest
thing,
thing I think I've seen to it was back in, I think it was MVP Baseball 2005 when you started a franchise. You slowly build your stadium up, but you were just buying sections. Like you'd buy an outfield, you'd buy concessions, and you would make little upgrades, but nothing customizable. It was just kind of like a set. Everybody would end up with the same stadium essentially, but it was a good
yeah.
start.
And All-Star Baseball. All-Star Baseball, you could create a team, and I think they had like a handful of fictional stadiums that they built.
Oh, okay.
And some of those were pretty cool.
Yeah, I
So
remember playing that game. And I don't remember it that well. It was a long time ago.
it was like the last two versions of that game, I think, where they had those created stadiums. Like I remember one was like a green monster, but half the wall was plexiglass.
I do remember that. Yep. I
So
think that was the stadium I actually used. It was in right field, right?
Yep, that's the one I used.
Yeah, I do remember that now.
So yeah, it's weird, to complain about this tool so much when I use it so much, and I'm so appreciative of the fact that it does exist.
Hmm.
And I mean, there's literally like unlimited stadiums for you to check out almost, and you know, to be complaining about some of these little things. But I mean, but I guess they're not little at the same time.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's more wishing than complaining. Like there are some complaints, but overall, like I think we're 95% of the way there. It's just little fixes and touch ups that we want to see.
Yeah, it's just mind-boggling to me how if you're a baseball fan, you don't see that you have to have the distances on the walls and bullpens off the field.
Hmm.
But okay, I don't want to repeat myself too much. But um, now for some of the props, you talked about more concourse textures.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of using the same brick over and over again because I use the brick all the time, and then well, I can't remember the
Right.
other the tile
So
texture that the kind of not the bright white one, but the other one. That's kind of like the target field wall texture. I use that quite
yep,
a bit, and
yep,
I,
that
I
one's
would just like to be
nicer.
able to use something like blue like the Yankees use, or like even like a green like the walls. Just give me a couple different colors, something to work with.
I agree. I agree. And again, you don't know this because you didn't play older versions of the game, but this year's version added a ton. Like that grass wasn't in the first two, and the sand and
Hmm.
the snow, none of those were in the first two. It was like brick, one version of concrete, the marble, and one or two other things, and that's about it. But
Yeah, which is a
but
good. It's a good start.
yeah, but even the new ones, I don't know how many people use it. I mean, people use the sand. I've seen like the giant sandcastle stadium, which was pretty cool.
Right.
Which is nice for more novelty type stadiums. But if you want to make a realistic stadium, I don't think many people are using that. Now, is is texture the word you're looking for, or maybe different patterns?
Yeah, probably different patterns. I guess texture is not really the right word. Like I don't need like I guess texture would be like sand. I don't need more like sand or anything like that. I just want different wall color variations, I
Right,
guess.
like brick patterns and like like bigger, different, maybe like different tiles colors mixed together.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Like
mostly use the
I,
concrete too when I'm trying to make realistic stadiums, but yeah, for
yeah,
me, I think it's more for just the walls. Like I don't want to keep doing brick walls or just those kind of yellowish walls on every single stadium. I do it like a little more variety.
right. And um the Vegas front stadium that I've showed two different versions of, I stole the idea of using that as like the facing of a deck or a concourse. I plastered it all over the Moonshot Casino now, and I think it looks pretty cool. You just have to avoid using it too much, and it gives you a little bit something different to look at than the same basic patterns.
Yeah, or the guy that figured out to use the facing of what is it, the lazy river has a really great tile texture on it, and
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, the Lazy River.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay, yep.
yep, yeah. I've got that all over the Moonshot Casino. I've got like my whole stadium's built of like lazy rivers now.
Well, and it's so strange because that's such a great looking texture, and 99% of people are just gonna sink that right into the ground. You know?
Yeah, yeah, they sure are. That's how I used to use it. So we now you talked about like squares and circles and triangles. What would you use those for?
So I would like to use squares for like outlining my scoreboards, or like circles if I wanted. I know a lot of stadiums like Target Field, they have the circles. They have kind of a jersey pattern in them. But if you just give me a regular circle where I can throw some numbers in it, again, we're gonna need numbers that aren't wood. Then I can
Yeah.
throw my retired numbers up there to make it look just it's just an extra touch that looks good.
Yeah, I said this in my first wish list video. It seems like there should be a retired numbers prop.
Yeah, that's
Like
actually
instead
what
of
I was saying, and I was just thinking that too. Just
it.
yeah, with it, just make a prop with every number on it. I'll scroll
Yep,
through it. I don't care.
yep. 1 through 99, maybe two versions of it. That's all you need.
Yeah, I don't need anything crazy, but I mean, a lot of people like with Mark Stadium, he had three retired numbers that he wanted, so I put those on there with the wood,
Uh-huh.
and then Jackie Robinson's number, obviously, and
Right.
there's just got to be a better way to do it.
I agree. You can't have one prop of numbers. You just can't do it. Okay, so yeah, I think that would be a great idea because some of the signs and scoreboards, they look awkward just placed right there. If there was a different way of framing it, whatever, I think those shapes would help a lot. And I think a good way to do that is you and I talked about this, and I had it in my other wish list video. Why not have packages where you could buy different stuff? Like you could buy a package of clubhouses, you could buy a package of stands, you could buy a package of light fixtures, you could buy a package of grass patterns. I would pay extra money for that, and I think there's plenty of other stadium creators out there who would too.
Yeah, that's my only problem is I would probably spend what I would buy every pack. I would be, half my paycheck could be going to Stadium Creator, and I'd be getting yelled at by the missus like, how much did you spend on that again? Yeah, but look, you get this cool roof. Do you even see it? When I build the stadium, I do. Oh my god.
Babe, we need to take out a loan. Why? You want to get that boat? No, they have a new luxury seating suite package that we can get on MLB The Show 20 through 4.
Yeah, look at this. This picnic tables. They don't have a red one yet. We got to get this. They got all different colors.
So yeah. I mean, I think that's a way to make it worth their while. To spend the time and to spend the money on
Yeah,
stadium
well, I think it'd be
creator mode.
a good way to do it, just to test the market to see if like the need for it is out there, the want. If people are buying it, then why wouldn't you do it?
Right, like they have stuff you can buy for like Fortnite, right? And Minecraft and Mario Kart. They have the downloadable content that you pay extra for. Same thing with Stadium Creator. I think it's a huge missed opportunity
Right,
where
and you
they
can just
could make
use
some extra
stubs
money.
too. Like that's their current currency that they're using for everything else. Like just give
Yeah,
me some packs that hell, I'll buy stubs. I don't care.
I think that makes a lot of sense. You talked about more plain advertising with no lights or billboards. So you're talking about like just more signs with like no frame or no lights sticking out or
Yeah, like I said, like it's like you touched on the giant green frame. Like just give me like just a flat texture, and if I want to build something around it, then I'll do that. With my more wall textures that I want.
right. That's something I wish they had with more buildings.
Hmm.
With just a bunch of windows, not a whole lot of, I don't even know the right words for it, like fancy architecture sticking off the corners of it in different shapes. I would just like a big rectangle that would fit next to each other where you can make a really long building or line them up good to kind of surround a stadium to make it like to face off the stadium a little bit easier or to close off gaps in a stadium or something.
Yeah,
So
yeah, because
there's not
it seems
many.
like they're either really tiny or they're really huge, and the ones that are kind of medium
Exactly.
sized, they're real particular with like a tropical theme, or maybe they're supposed to go
Uh-huh.
with like the dinosaurs or whatever, and they just don't. Yeah, they're just not. I don't know. They're too specific,
Right.
I guess.
I agree. So that's something I think could be better too. Batter's eyes, I think, probably falls into the category of basic for everybody. There's only like what 8?
I don't know how many there are. There's quite a bit, but my biggest complaint with Batter's Eye is how far away they sit, and I can't build anything in front of it. Which I understand I can't build in front of it, but then there's a bunch of the flat ones that are right up against the wall, and that's perfect. And I wish you could maybe just move them forward or backward just a little bit. Give me like 10 feet of work to work with if I want to put some trees in front of it, or
Right. I mean, otherwise, if you want trees, you got to go with Philadelphia. They got the little pine trees in front of it or something like that.
yeah, or you're gonna have to use an
And then,
anomaly to put those trees
right.
already in front of it. And
Yep. The anomalies are huge. Like what I tend to do now is I'll get the Hall of Fame one, I call it, because it's got the black in the center and then the stone surrounding it.
Mhm.
Um, I use that one and then put a hill in front of it. I think I saw Sandman Dan do that, and I was like, dude, that's a great idea.
Yep.
Because one of my biggest complaints with having a hill is anything in center field is way far away from the batter, because you can't build over the top of
Yeah.
the
Right.
batter's eye. You have to be like a certain distance behind it.
Well, and some of them are so
So,
wide, and it's just a tiny part of it that's really wide, and you can't build anything even close to that batter's eye because again, the sensitivity is so high on it that unless you're using anomalies, like your stands are gonna be super far away from it, or you can't even put like a tree next to it because it's covering up a tiny little bit that wouldn't even be in the batter's eye part, like the portion of it.
right. I think I counted 26 batter's eyes.
26.
So
Okay, so there
that's
is a
more
lot
than
in
I
there. I was gonna say
thought.
it seems like there was a bunch, and then
Some of them are new, but some of them they look like crap. Like some of the plain ones, like the stupid teal, it's just wooden slabs. It's too long.
right, and I
Um,
always end up using those as anomalies for different wall textures. Like I'll end up hiding them somehow and using them as dividing
right.
walls. But
The
yeah,
four
never
by
as a
four,
batter's eye.
the 4x4 pads isn't bad, but then it's got like a green outline, and then it sits pretty far back from the wall. So I don't know. Just they got to do something to the batter's eyes too. Whether it's make them less sensitive, and you can get closer to them, or I don't know. I don't know how to fix the batter's eye issue, but or maybe just have more of them. Like it's nice that they added that waterfall and a couple other newer ones
Hmm.
because that waterfall was definitely from an update this year, right? But the dinosaur ones, come on.
Yeah,
You're gonna
I
give us
don't.
new batter's eyes, but these stupid broken, dumpy looking things? Come on.
Yeah, like I don't see anybody really use the dinosaur props like at all. Like unless it's fun to do like one time, but then after that it's like, okay, that was great. Like that should have been like a DLC paid for. Like if you want it, here it is, but I don't
There
know.
you go. I couldn't agree with you more on that. That was the perfect way to handle the dinosaurs. Like when that update came out, I recorded my reaction to them, and it's like you go through the vault and you see these baseball games with all these people whooping and hollering and cheering, yet in the outfield past the stadium, there's a monster ripping up a building. It's like, oh, okay, that's going on. But look, there's 3 outs. Let's get on to the next inning.
Yeah, never mind Godzilla in the background. It's bottom of the ninth and there's a runner on first.
Oh boy.
Like yeah, like it's one of those things. Like yeah, it's funny like once, but I mean like even when I see people play online, I don't even see those guys using them.
Yeah, I did not see a lot of monster stadiums when you go through the vault and you go through all the trash, and that's something we're going to touch on a little bit later is the vault. But
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't see a lot of them, so I don't think the monsters were that popular.
Yeah, the one cool one, I think, well, there's two that I can think of off the top of my head. I think it was, and I don't want to get it wrong. I think it was Sandman Dan, or maybe it was Murph. I can't remember. One of them made they had the big fish tank thing in right field, and one of them that I showed with I can't remember what they're called, like the big, like,
yeah, it's like a big whale.
They were, but yeah, that was pretty funny. And then I think someone made one for you for the dinos, how they had like the bridge that went over like the dinosaur pen. Like that's it's funny,
right?
But I'm never gonna use that.
I think he didn't make that for the dinos. When he heard there was a team, the dinos, I think he said, "Hey, I built one of those. If you want to take a look at it."
Oh, okay.
Or he might have even told me earlier on, "Hey, I know you don't like the dinosaurs, but I built a pretty cool one." And when I looked at it after revealing the dinos, I was like, "This one is fun. He did a good job with it."
Yeah,
if there's going to be a
the best.
baseball stadium,
It's better than I could have used them. Like I look at those. I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Like if someone's like, "Hey, can you build me a park with dinosaurs?" I'd be like, I'll try to figure something out, but I mean, no promises. Like I like more realistic builds too, and like I try to get away from that and try and get a little bit more creative, like I did with like the Coliseum style stadium. But even then, it's like in my head, I'm like, well, how would these people even get to these seats? And I can't just, I don't know. I gotta get out of that mind space sometimes.
Yeah, there's definitely times where I put a section of stands there and there's no way to get there, and I just say, I need to get in there. Or if I obscure a view, I'm like, oh, I got to move this.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I put a stadium or stands up high and there's no railing, I'm like, oh, the fake people are gonna fall off.
Yeah, well, just have them sign a waiver, whatever.
Warning: you may plummet to your death if you sit in this section. We'll knock $10 off the ticket price for you.
Yeah, and like that's another thing too. Is like I don't know if you want to jump into stands yet, but if you could give me some smaller sections where I don't have to have the seats go all the way back, then I don't have to worry about this giant wall that I'm putting up with these obstructed views. Because half the time, the people in like the corners, the way I want to build a stadium, they're not going to be able to see into like center field. Which there are some stadiums that are like that, but not many.
Yeah, stands were definitely where I was heading next because you mentioned you wanted the smaller size, and I agree. I hate having to use the bleachers too much because they're just not attractive. Even the fancier Dodgers stadium bleachers, they're just not appealing to the eye. So it would be nice if they had like even minor league sized, but without the stupid building sticking up.
Right.
So that would be a help, and I've tried to use those before, but sometimes it's just hard to hide that stupid building that sticks up out of there in the minor league parks.
Right, and that's why I would like it's almost like deconstructed stands. Like give me like a couple different sizes of just stands, maybe some separate stair pieces that I can put there, because there are certain sets where you can go like the way they are, you go all the way down the left field line and there's no stairs. Like you're like, okay, well, that would suck if you had to go to the bathroom. I mean, it's one of those nitpicky things. Like you're not really gonna notice when you're playing the game, but when I'm building it, it's definitely something I think about.
and I think you and I touched up on this before we started recording. The upper decks, the facing of the stands, some of them don't match.
Yeah,
Like
there's like
it's
a
both,
smooth one, and then it's like the texture broke on one of them, and it's really rough, and it doesn't make
yeah,
any
and then
sense.
the alignment tool doesn't work as well as it has in the past. Like sometimes it works as a magnet, where they hit each other and they bounce way far away.
Yeah, or like it's trying. You're like, what does it think it's aligning itself to? I've had them shoot all the way across the map, where I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just do it myself. But
Yeah, that's another one of those things where I think they took a huge step back this year compared to other, versions of this game. So it'd be
right.
nice for them to fix that thing up. But another thing where I wish they would fix is most stadiums now on the field level, you have, the seats that go right down to the field, right?
Hmm.
And when you climb out, there's a walkway, and then there's a giant wall, and then there's another level of seats that go up, but it's not the upper deck. You know what I'm saying? Like Baltimore, you can clearly see it in Baltimore. I don't know why that's the one that sticks out. I'm sure it's most modern ballparks,
Yep.
or at least any ballpark since 1994. But there's that walkway, so you're not blocking the view of people behind you.
Yep.
And I think the stadium creator is going for that in all of their field level seating, but it doesn't give you that wall,
Right.
on the level that's back further. I think they need to steepen that, the front level, and then give you that flat and then the wall. And you could recreate that with plaza level seating, but
Hmm.
it's still it doesn't seem like you should have to go through all that to get basic seating in a major league stadium.
Right. And since, growing up in Minnesota for, I was there when they built Target Field, and it's like that because they have the Legends Cup directly behind home. Then there's a walkway, but you're still on the lower level. And then, like you said, there's a raised wall, and then some more seating that goes back to the main concourse. And that was one of the reasons. Like, I'll build that myself with smaller sections if I can line them up, make a small one, then build a wall. Like, I'll go around and put the whole texture of the concrete down. Like, it doesn't bother me to do that. It would be great if there were set pieces, but that was one of the things in the smaller sections. Because yeah, I've had to throw rows of bleachers down the foul ball line, make a wall, and then put the stands up, and it's like you get the idea across, but it's like you said with the bleachers, it just doesn't look the best.
So yeah, just having the option of, the fancier field level seating, and the nicer looking seats where you can change the color of them and all that, but fewer rows, I think would be a huge thing because you wouldn't have to hide seats and waste props, hiding them and having all those people buried underneath. It just seems like a waste of memory when you have to do stuff like that. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I think more facings of upper decks and field levels would be better. Maybe more end caps, anything like that to add to the stands,
Hmm.
would really help a lot. Even maybe more bleachers. Like Yankee Stadium has bleachers. Why not use some of their bleachers too? Why does it have to be that old crappy wooden one? And I mean, I've seen people use them a lot better, so I've tried it. I used it on Salesforce Field, but the one that's like fenced in.
Yeah, yeah, that's not a
I,
very good
I,
one.
I
That's like at a high school field you would see that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense because they do have options to make like little league and high school type fields.
Hmm.
But I mean, even that small of bleachers without the fence around it would be better to me. But
Right.
yeah,
And then when you use any of the bleachers, when you have to make your own cap, the angles that the walls go up, they're not consistent with that either. So it does make it difficult.
yep. And you talked about how you want to fix the auto align issues. We got into that.
Hmm.
And then did we? Okay. Um, I
Yeah, the
think
other
we
thing I was
talked.
going to talk about was how when you get to the stands on the corners, when you get
Yes,
towards the foul
yeah.
poles, I wish they would start angling in a bit more so I could end those and I don't have to wrap them all the way around that corner.
Uh-huh. And it almost gets to the point where I don't do many stadiums anymore where the fans actually wrap around because it's so awkward and you can't do it without like some of the fence or the stands, bleeding into the field and then redding out.
Hmm.
So I try to avoid it. I try to cut them off before the curve and then build a deck or put a building there or something just because it's so awkward.
Yeah, and that's like the biggest thing with me building any stadium is like, what am I gonna do with these corners? Because every time I'm building a plaza level up there, and it's like I don't want to do the same design over and over again, but at the same time, it's how can I make it look good? But
Right. What I often do is right down the line at some point where it's straight, where it's like perpendicular to the foul line,
Hmm.
just have it go straight across into foul territory, and that's where you cut it off.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, make it look better than others, but I mean, that's an option in building a deck that goes around or putting a building there. I mean, that's basically it because it just seems like any fans that you put in there, like they'll have an obstructed view or it won't look as good and they kind of bleed into each other. But I
Yeah,
don't
like
know.
9 out of 10 times you're trying to build something there, and it's like, well, now they can't see into center field, and it's like, okay, well, I
Right.
guess we'll just deal
And
with it for now. It is what it is.
so if the bullpens are stuck on the field,
Hmm.
which
I,
Lord
I think
help
it's gonna
us,
be that way for the foreseeable future.
Lord help us, they're not in the next game. Maybe there's a different option, like you said, where you can have a different amount of foul space where the fans cut in a little bit different, or the foul, there isn't as much space in foul territory. I don't know, but the bullpen mess in that corner needs to go. It needs to change.
Right. And then my biggest thing too is like, since we only get a couple different sets for each, like there's a couple different lower decks, like they have like the modern, classic, whatever. If we start
Uh-huh.
messing with foul ball territories, like that's gonna get real messy. Like I think if they did my idea where you're choosing different sets of foul territories, I think they almost have to put in the stands for you, which not ideal, but I mean, I think a
Right.
lot of people would give up that sacrifice because I don't mess around with behind home plate a whole lot. I did it once where I put the stadium that was in the mountain, and you can see the waterfall back there. But aside from the opening shot where they zoom in on the stadium showing the two matchups, like you're never gonna see that again. So I don't think we need to mess around with stuff behind home plate. I would definitely be like, throw the stands on the lower level for me if I can get some different foul territories on there. And like I said, if you can give me some different dugouts to like match the team colors or whatever, that'd be great too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, give me the bottom level. I don't care, and I can work around it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. That's something that I had in the back of my mind too. Maybe there's just a template of different stands in the back,
Hmm.
that have different foul territory options, minor league, major league options, and stuff like that. And then maybe you can add stuff to them. Like you can blend in, different stands together and buildings into buildings and props into props. Just to make it unique. But like you said, if you're using these stadiums for game mode, there's really not much to be seen behind home plate when you're playing the game.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, even when because the angle they give you for the created stadiums for the pitching mode when you're behind the pitcher, you're only really seeing the wall, and like if you have it real low, you might see a couple of the stands, but that's about it. It really feels like the outfield is really your canvas on where you're gonna get creative.
mhm. And that is where you see most of the stuff, from behind home plate. I I often build the stadium, save it, go into the template, and just see what it looks like in the template,
Hmm.
or not the template, the thumbnail. And if it looks good there, then chances are it's going to look good when you're hitting or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of like corner to corner. Other than that, it doesn't matter a whole lot unless you're like hitting one of those high foul balls that's getting close that they're showing like, oh, it's close to the foul pole. Is it gonna go? No, like even
Uh,
then you're
and
not seeing even upper deck behind home plate very often.
Yeah, and even when you're pitching, there's a very limited space that you see behind the home plate circle
Hmm.
and all that stuff. So I've messed around that with a little bit. Like I tried to recreate, the do all the windows and then put the scoreboard behind it.
Hmm.
But the problem with that is the windows have to be so high. It have to be like 9 feet high, and not
Yeah,
many not many major league stadiums have that high of a wall behind home plate. So I kind
yeah,
of abandoned that idea and just tried to make the seating a little bit fancier back there by having different levels. But I mean, even then, you do it and you don't see it in the game. So
yeah. There's only a couple of stadiums. I think Cleveland still has it where they're kind of below field level, so like their heads are almost at
yep,
field level.
yep. Cleveland, Texas, the new Texas Stadium.
Yep.
They're really cool. Like you're down below, and I think Dodger Stadium too, right? Maybe Dodger
That one
Stadium
I
and
don't
Anaheim.
remember.
They might have some that are below field level, and those are really cool. So yeah, I mean, there's really no way to pull that off unless you bury people and like only half half of
Yeah.
their chest sticks up. But
And then another minor cool detail behind home plate is like they have those little boxes that they put the advertising on, whether they're just like the green screens that are projected and they're putting them on for TV or whatever. But that'd be kind
Yeah,
of cool to see. I mean, once in a while you'd have it interact with, if a ball gets
right.
away when you're playing, it might ricochet off that in a different way. But
Yeah, and I mean, they have them in the games,
hmm
in the real stadium, so it doesn't I don't see why it couldn't be a prop,
well, if you that's a whole other list I can make. Like, I see it in this stadium, why can't I do it? But that would
Right,
be a whole nother video.
and that brings me to overhangs,
hmm
because Minnesota, part of the field sticks over the home run fence,
Yep, in right
Citi
field.
Field, part of the upper deck, Detroit, old school Detroit, the whole thing, right, pretty much sticks over where it's an overhang, where you look like you're gonna catch the ball, but then it lands into the home run fence.
Yeah, I guess
I
I didn't know
think
City Field had an overhang.
Yeah, that part in right field where it jolts back, that's underneath the thing of bleachers.
Oh, yep, yep. Okay, I know what
Or
you're talking about.
not bleachers, but an upper deck. Yeah, I agree. I think it's such a unique feature. Maybe only allow it like a foot or 2.
Right, yeah,
But
just
either way,
very minimal.
yeah, even the littlest tiny thing would be kind of fun, and
Because I think
you
at
could
most
play
target
around with.
fields, like if you look at target fields, their overhang is kind of angled where I think it's like 3 or 4 rows at the most on the right side, but then it angles back towards center field. So at the end, it's only like 2 rows. Like it's not a
Yeah.
whole lot, but it looks really cool.
Right, and I've never seen it be much of, in play very much,
I,
where
I
it
think
makes
I've
a huge
seen because
difference in
I've
the
watched a
game.
lot of Twins games. I've seen maybe 2, 3 balls hit off that, and the crazy thing is like when you hit that because it's what is it? It's limestone. So when the ball hits off
Mhm.
that limestone, it gets a huge ricochet. So like it's
Oh,
like
I
a
bet,
huge
yeah.
advantage for the right fielders to know how to play it. If it hits it, it goes way back, and if it hits the wall, it drops pretty straight down.
The lights, that's another thing that has to be fixed. Left center field and right center field, for whatever reason, took a step backwards. They read out. Like, it's not even too close to the field. Like, there's one little, like square, like rectangle where they can't go. Like, it could come a little bit closer to the field or way back, but this one little section they can't go. And there's so many stadiums I want to put lights there, but they don't work.
Yeah, and the strange thing is a lot of times the smaller lights, I'm not sure if it's because they're smaller and they give off less light, but they work in
Right?
the spots where the bigger lights just don't work, and you end up having to like kind of angle them, and then now you
Hmm.
got 2 lights next to each other, and if you look at it hard enough, it's like, well, why is this one pointing this direction, the other one's kind of pointing off in the other direction, but
Yeah.
that's what you got to do to make it work, but yeah,
So
it's another thing I don't understand.
Yeah, and I'd like more lights, give us more light props.
hmm
Um, I think just more of everything, but you mentioned scoreboards. Definitely need new scoreboards. Definitely need more sized scoreboards, specifically smaller ones. I think they have enough big ones where you can work around it, but they definitely need some smaller scoreboards.
Right, and I do enjoy the ones they have now, and I love the advertising around them. But again, they're so specific sometimes, and they have like the giant green scaffolding around them. Like I've definitely used those a couple times, but I would just like when it comes down to a lot of the props, I just want more plain props. Like just give me a couple
I
different
agree.
size scoreboards. Like I think the one with the best size on it is weird because it's got the little mini one on the bottom, and then it's got like the lightning bolts that go up through the top. It's like the perfect size scoreboard, but I
Yeah.
don't want the bottom little scoreboard, and I don't want these like weird shapes sticking out of it. So I've had to hide it. I actually used it in Mark's Stadium, and I flipped around it's like the black advertising. I think it's the intentional talk. I flipped it backwards and then
Oh,
used the
yep.
the black there to cover it up, and it's one of those things that you're kind of dealing with the pixels, but
Yeah. Maybe some blank scoreboard hosts.
ooh, that could
Like
be
maybe
good.
give us
Yeah.
like give us the one with the gray, but take out the scoreboard. Maybe you can put a different size scoreboard in there and hide the MLB.com tickets one. It's
hmm
called the jumbo cluster, I guess.
Okay.
Um, I never really liked the jumbo cluster large because it's got the really thin and like the green pillars and stuff like that.
Oh
Like I
yeah, I
wish
know, I
we
know what
just
you're
had
talking about.
pillars.
Yep.
How about just pillars as a prop? I think that would be great to kind of hold an upper deck or a concourse or a deck or something.
Yeah, like I said, to me, and I come from like I said, playing a lot of games like Planet Coaster, where like the main thing I see in like sandbox games or where you're building things is everybody just wants smaller props. Like if you're like a diehard builder anyway. But yeah, I would love some pillars or columns so I can hold it up. I've seen people use signs, but like the signs that are on top are so huge. It's like, well, now I gotta hide that again, and I don't know.
Hmm.
It just gets
Or,
difficult.
or the pillars are green, you
Yeah, like
know.
everything's
So
green. Yeah, everything's
I mean,
green or brick. It kind of seems like.
I get it. Probably to start just to jumpstart the tool,
Hmm.
you maybe just want to use props that were, already existing in other stadiums. Maybe there was a way to just pull them from existing stadiums and, make them so you can place them in your own stadium. But
Right,
now
and
that
I
we're
get they
three
don't want to make the
years,
tool too overcomplicated and difficult to like have somebody pull it up and be like, "Wow, this is way more detailed than I want to get into." You want to be able to like kind of cut and paste and put something together pretty easily. Like it's kind of a balance. Like I think we're there for the ease of use for the general people that want to use it, but I think we're kind of nitpicking for the diehards too that want to get real detailed into it. But hey, I'm one of those
yeah,
people.
yeah, I agree. Now that we're 3 years in, it just seems like they need more different stuff.
Yeah, and
And
like we said,
and
we're willing to pay for it. Throw it in DLC. Like you'll
uh-huh. Hint,
like
hint, SDS, we will pay for it. I know I will.
yeah. Oh, I'll
I'm
have
pretty
every
sure you're
pack the day it comes out, and heck, that would
I'm
even give me more content to put out. Like, hey, this is what's new this week in the DLC. Like, download it now.
sans a new dinosaur pack. I will not pay for a new
Okay, yeah,
dinosaur
I'm
or
not getting the
monster
Godzilla
pack.
pack or whatever we're doing here.
The dinosaur pack though actually had other good props. Like it gave us that new scoreboard and there was some other stuff I can't remember specifically what it was, but
Yeah, there's
the,
actually a
the,
few
the
plants from it. Like, there's some plants that look really
yeah,
terrible in it
that's
because they're
yep.
like it's almost like the Flintstones trees, but there are some good ones in there that I do use as like shrubbery and that kind of thing.
Right. So there was enough with the dinosaur one, but the stupid monster one, there was maybe two, like maybe a new concession stand or something that was worth keeping. Other than that,
Yeah, they
not
could have
much of
called it the
anything.
Jurassic Park pack because they put out those fences too that had like they had like the brakes and like the T Rex broke out of it, and they added the Velociraptors and
Now you said something that I think would be interesting, and maybe they can pull it off somehow, or maybe they can't. But I think it's a good idea. You said you wanted smaller props, but you also mentioned that maybe adjustable props.
yeah. So if you could have resizable props, I think that would be a game changer. Because like there are times too where I would love to use like that blue text is great, like those props, but they're just so
Mhm.
small. Like if I want to
They
make a
are
stadium
small.
name on it or something like it just doesn't it's not big enough. And yeah, if a resizable props, if they figured a way to make it where you could scale the props and not make them look like I understand if you make something huge it's going to lose the detail and the textures in it, but if you
Right.
could
It
make them just
becomes
a little
maybe a
bit
little.
bigger or smaller, like I think that would be huge.
Now, you also said smaller fountains. Is it do you mean like what I mean when I say like the Kansas City fountain's pretty cool, but it's so deep, it's so long to get to the actual fountain because the only place that you can have close to the home run fence is the curvy part, right? And then
Yeah,
the
so
waterfall itself is way back.
I was more thinking like if they had like the smaller ones and like don't put the advertising on the walls around it. Like if you can just give me like
Mhm.
you could even be in concourse where like, hey, here's these wall pieces, but it's got like a flowing water texture on it where I can make smaller waterfalls or fountains and that kind of a thing.
Right. And then if you have a smaller one, you can put them next to each other and group them, and then you got a big
Yeah, then you
one.
can make a big one.
So yeah, I definitely would like some. And how about one that sprays? Don't the ones in Kansas City actually spray up too?
The fountains in Kansas City, yeah, they do spray up. I've been to a game. I don't think actually I went to two there. I went to a night game and then the next day I went to a day game, and I don't remember seeing it, but I looked online just a second ago, and yeah, they do spray up. I don't know if it's for home runs or what the deal is, but yeah, it is an option.
Yeah, that's one of the older stadiums I would like to check out before, because I know they're after a new downtown stadium. So we're kind of running out of things that I wanted to talk about, but
I would say the last thing that we didn't touch on, and I can't believe we skipped over it. I don't think we talked about it anyway. Was retractable roofs.
yeah, there I mean, even it seems like even if there's some kind of template, like they have the football stadium as an option, right?
Hmm.
And you could pull that over and it fits over the whole baseball field. Now, obviously it doesn't work because of the overhang, and it reds out if it gets over the stadium.
Well, and my thought too was maybe if they had a couple of retractable roof props that you could just, it's like the one thing that can be placed
Yeah,
over the top of the stadium. Or even if, you go to create a new stadium, there's two options: create an outdoor park, create an indoor park, or create a retractable roof, kind of, one of those kind of
right.
things. I don't think, I know
Yeah.
MLB's like really trying to get away from the always indoor.
The main thing they have to figure out a way to do this is an undo button. Have you
Yeah, that
ever
would be super
accidentally
helpful.
deleted something and not been able to undo it? It can be a nightmare. I know they have it to an extent where if you grab something and it's like if you're playing chess or checkers, as long as you don't take your finger off that button, you can just hit circle and it'll pop back.
Yep.
But that's not enough. And it's the same problem in logo creator. I don't know how much you ever use that, but
Not much.
if you're making a logo and you accidentally delete the wrong thing, you can't bring it back by just hitting undo.
Ooh.
We teased that we were going to touch on this a little bit, and I think something needs to be done about the vault. Something with
Yes.
my main thing is I would like to see the vault set up just how it is in every other mode. With it should be rosters, logos,
Hmm.
sliders, stadiums,
Yeah, and it's like kind
right?
of how I touched on. That's kind of like how the Steam Workshop works on like PC, because I'm a big PC gamer too, and it's like give every user a page, and then there's got to be a way, because like we were talking before, like stadiums get re-uploaded so many times and they're all the same, and like, I've had a couple of people message me, and like when I show my stadiums that inspire, they'll be like, hey, this stadium was actually mine, and then I feel bad for giving credit to like the wrong person, and most
Yeah.
of the time it's because I found it in the vault and I was just like, oh, this is pretty cool, and it's my fault for not, like you said, double checking and like putting in that stadium name and going all the way back and seeing who the original user is. But it shouldn't be that much of a hassle, because like, God forbid if I wanted to show Costco Stadium, which I never would, but who's the original creator of that? Can you figure it out? Because no one knows.
There's got to be 1,000 pages of re-uploads on that. It's mind-boggling to me. But I get it if it's got like short home run fences and like there was like a hack where the elevation's higher and you hit more home runs. Okay, I get that. I think by now though everybody knows it's there. Mind-boggling to me that it affects the entire vault just because some other dude feels they have to re-upload it to save it. If you try to re-upload a logo that was untouched, it doesn't let you.
Oh, really?
There's a message that comes up and says this logo is identical to one that's already in the vault. They need to do the same thing with stadiums.
I would just hate to run into like somebody like, like my last video, Carmen's dad updated my stadium and he made some cool changes to it, but
Right.
I wouldn't want it to get flagged because, like, I don't know, 75-80% of it's the same, but he made some cool upgrades, and it's like, I don't want it to detect, this is the same when it's really not, because like X number percentage of props are the same, and I don't know. There's got to be a good way to do it though.
Maybe the main thing needs to be once you upload a stadium, you can delete it if you want. Because I think you can delete your own logos. There's some you really, drastic changes where I would like to keep, some different versions of it in the vault, and that's fine. But I don't need 35,000 pages of it.
Right, and that's kind of why I was getting back to where I think each user should have their own page that they can control. Because like on the Steam Workshop, if I update it, I can, instead of re-uploading my creation, I can just, update it with the same file name, and it's just one of those. And then they have like featured creators and featured stuff that's getting downloaded on the front page of like that game. Like, hey, this is what's popular in the vault, like, this week. It's like these 5 stadiums or these 5 logos, and like, if you want to re-upload it, that's fine, but then it gets re-uploaded to your page.
That it's so time consuming just to get to like the 5th page of uploaded videos, because each thumbnail takes so long to upload. I would like it if it was displayed in the vault like 8. I think that's how many there are in every other thing, right? 8 thumbnails, and then you hit right, and then boom, there's 8 more, instead of move over, download,
or even give me like,
download.
20 thumbnail pictures, and if I click on that one because I'm like, oh, this looks interesting, click on it. Now let's go into the, I'll wait a second to load into the information and get some more information on it. Like
this, I mean, I doubt it's super feasible, but I mean, at the same time, it seems like it could be feasible. I would like to be able to look at stadiums, or at least a thumbnail of a stadium, from my phone. But if there's a thumbnail that I like it, I could either write it down or send a text message to myself or something to remind me, hey, when I get to my PlayStation 5, I want to take a better look at that stadium. I think that would be super cool.
Right. Well, and they already have an app for the show, so if they could just, because you can upload your face for your Road to the Show player or whatever, and there's some other functions on there, but yeah, if you incorporate the vault into that somehow, that'd be pretty cool. Whether or not you're syncing it up with like your Microsoft or PlayStation account is another thing, but because I get my YouTube messages that pop up, sounds like, hey, check out this state. I'm like, okay, I'll write it down, but then I got to pull up, like, I use like Google Sheets and I add all the info to that. But if I could just be like, but if there was a way I could just go into the vault and be like, oh, okay, yeah, add this to my list so I can check it out later, So I don't want to forget anybody.
It being 2024 and you can have Xbox players play PlayStation players in the same game, it doesn't seem like it should be anything that hard, and I think it would be a huge addition to the tool. So those are the main changes I want to the vault. Again, going back to the rosters and the sliders and all that stuff. Another thing that they do that the Stadium Creator Vault doesn't is show you exactly how many people downloaded it. I would love to know how many people downloaded certain versions of my stadiums and, who liked it and disliked it and stuff like that.
It'd be cool to see like, hey, how are they using the stadium? Are they using it for Road to the Show or Diamond
Yeah.
Dynasty? I know I
Yeah,
got one
that would be
user that
cool.
said they're using a lot of my stadiums for like March to October, and
I would get excited to send my stadium to Harrison or Sawyer, or when would, showcase my stadium. It's cool to see other people's takes on what they liked and what they didn't like of my stadiums.
yeah, I came to the realization after I posted like I don't know 4, 5, 6, 7 videos where I bet other people are in the same thing as me. Like they want other people to see their cool creations that they make too. So yeah, why not start a whole other series where I can show off everybody else's too?
And another reason I wanted to do it, and you and I talked about this a little bit off air. I'm going to get back into doing this a little bit. When I find a stadium through the vault, I want to start doing that more again. As excited I am and how much I love getting requests for people to see my stadiums, or requests to show their stadiums on my channel.
Yep.
It's also a very useful tool. Like the reason I started looking stadiums up online is because the vault is so crappy. It's
Yeah.
hard to find them on your own. Again, I love showing other people's stadiums, but I think it is important for people to have someone to show them, hey, this is a cool stadium that I found too.
Yeah, it's like, and right now with like how the vault is, like you said, unless they reorganize it, it's literally finding a diamond in the rough right now.
If anybody's, willing to say, hey, take a look at my stadium,
Mhm.
chances are it's pretty good and they've spent a lot of time on it, and it's better than most of the crap you're going to find in the vault. Yeah, that's kind of the main things I have. I mean, obviously, looking back, there's going to be stuff I regret that I missed. Oh shoot, I should have mentioned that. One thing I'd mentioned, I've said it in my stadiums before. One thing I want new is better reaction to the ball. Like if you're hitting the ball into water, there should be a little splash and the ball should pop back up, because it floats. And when it lands on the roof, it should trickle back down more.
Yeah, it doesn't stick.
Where it usually hits a wall and then maybe bounces down once or twice and then it stops.
Yeah, because I thought about just the dumb ideas that go through my mind. I was like, oh, I wonder if I made like something in Stadium Creator, and there's not the props for it, but I was like, what if in like dead center field I could put like a plinko board where if you get like the top of it and you just watch it bounce all the way down, and then like I could use my brand new like number tools that I have now and have like different points so you can see like that plinko home run was like a 100-pointer or something like that. And I thought about making like a home run derby stadium too, where like, oh, if you hit it like, because I saw somebody made a basketball hoop one time out of props. I'm like, oh, the basketball hoop's like 500 points, and like if you put in like this little area of a basket or these stands, it's like so many points, and you can play with your buddies and be like, just go for the high score on home run derby.
Like, and it might like light up or something like that.
Yeah, because I know like the old Tiger Woods games, their driving ranges, they used to have stuff like that where you could rack up points by hitting like merry-go-rounds or like
that's
the
a great
range picker.
idea. And the sounds to me is another big one. If you had a real sound, like I mentioned with the trees, I used to love hitting home runs into the trees and hear them go flying through branches and leaves and cracking. Yep. If you hit a ball off a foul pole in a game, it doesn't make that sound.
No, I don't even know if it goes like dunk. I just did it and Road to the Show the other day, and I don't think it made a sound at all.
Other than that, I think we touched on the major things that I can think of.
Yeah, my last ask, and I know it's easy to do, I know it's programmable, please do it for me. Just let me hide that UI on the very bottom. Like just where it shows the controls on like how to do the stuff on the Stadium Creator on the very bottom. Because if you go into the replay during the normal game, there's a way to hide like the replay controls. Just let me hide the Stadium Creator controls, because that would help me if we're doing my YouTube channel. I know it's kind of a selfish ask, but
in the original version of the game of Stadium Creator, you could press a button that would take your camera and reset you right behind home plate. And then you hit that button and it takes you right back. Now you have to like zoom back and realign and get everything set up, right to the camera spot. I missed that in the original feature, being able to hit that. I don't remember what button it was, but you could hit a button and if you know it, and it really exists, please let me know in the comments below. It'd really be nice if they could bring that tool back. So, I mean, I got nothing else. If unless you do you have anything else that we missed?
And I think we covered everything, actually. I mean, this is gonna be a long video already, but
I have to thank you because this is going on my channel, and I feel like you're doing all the work. So Suel21, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for, bearing with me and the patience with all the technical problems we've had and going through. I'm glad to know it's not just on my end, even though it certainly seems that you came up with the solutions to the problems we've been having. So
Yeah,
You
sometimes.
know, thank you for the cool border thing that we got going here. People asked for the collaboration and we made it work, man. And I think this is the perfect topic, to show that it's not just one creator who wants this stuff, it's all of us.
All 10 of us that just keep it's me, it's
Me,
you, it's
you,
Murph, it's
Sandman Dan, and
Sandman
Murphy
Dan,
really
it's
want
all
this
those
shit.
guys.
And Arch, we really want Archmage. We want all this stuff. Yeah, if you want a stadium created or showcased, if you want a stadium showcased on Studio 44 or on Suel's Stadiums That Expire series, leave a name in the comments below. Go to Suel 21. Are you going to post a version of this?
Oh, we'll see how it works out here. Otherwise, I was saying
Okay.
like me and you, we could always we could make this like a once a month or every other week kind of thing. We talk about different things and switch channels if you
Yeah,
want to do
why
it that
not?
way.
I thought it might be fun to interview some of the Murphs or the Bow Tigers or the
Oh, that would be
Archmages.
really
Maybe
cool. Yeah.
if they want to get on somehow, if I could ever make the technology more consistent, I would love to go through a bunch of stadiums by each of those creators and kind of talk to them about it. But another idea of mine is I wanted to like we've talked about, download each other's stadiums, change some things and re-upload them and see what people thought. Because you mentioned the coastal stadium that you built for Puerto Rico, right? Is that the
Yeah,
stadium that
Carmen's dad,
yeah.
he just sent me that out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I kind of redid this," and I was like, "Oh, okay, let's go take a look at it." I'm like, "Man, he got a lot of good ideas." Like, he has such
Yeah.
clean stadium builds. Like, a lot of the work he did in the corners, like with the restaurant, and then he took out the pirate ship and did some stuff there, and it gave it such a cool, clean look. Yeah,
So I get real curious as to what people would do to my stadium. So I thought it might be fun where like maybe randomly you got a Murph stadium and I got an Arch stadium and Arch got one of my stadiums and Sandman Dan got a Bow Tiger stadium. They tinkered with some things and re-uploaded and we showcased. I thought that could be fun too.
that'd be kind of cool, yeah, like a stadium mashup kind of series.
I definitely want to do in February once we get to the last, breaths of the life of 2023.
Right.
Maybe each of us submit a stadium that we like, and maybe we do a vote on who liked what stadium the best and have the definitive best stadium of MLB The Show 2023. What do you think about that?
That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, I'd have to think about. I'd probably have to make a whole new one, but I'm trying to think what my best one is right now. It might be that coastal stadium for San Juan that I made. That came out pretty clean looking for me.
I'm going to tell you my favorite stadium of yours is the old school one. What is it, Vanderbilt?
Oh, Vanderbilt Yards. Yeah, I couldn't think of the name of it earlier.
I freaking love that stadium with the anomaly in right field over that big wall and the net coming over it. It seems so realistic, like something that they would have, like Monument Park in center field has the net over them.
Yep.
I think that hands down is my favorite stadium of yours. I think that could be fun too. I just wish there was a prize I could offer for everybody to, for whoever won, like a $60 PlayStation gift card or something, even if it's something small like that. Any extra money I have right now goes into a new light or a new green screen or
Oh yeah.
or something new for this or respect the pick. All right. Well, again, Suel, thank you so much for all this stuff. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Thank you so much for, taking on the extra work of, doing all the editing and putting all this stuff together. I can't thank you enough. I'm so glad we were able to finally pull this off and I hope people like it and maybe we can find something, to work with together down the road. So yeah, check out at Suel 21 on YouTube. He's got the fantastic presentation, fantastic stadiums. He'll showcase your stadium. He'll showcase his own. Leave a comment below if you want a stadium along with your gamer tag. Leave a comment below if you want one shown here on Studio 44. We're still looking for stadiums for the Ricky Davis League. The next video that goes up is going to be the final 10 teams that need a stadium. And there's two profile teams in there because I built one for the San Jose Sharks, but I'm not in love with it. So if you come up with one better, it'll make it. So we need one for the Alaska Grizzlies. 10 more teams coming up. And hey, if you've gone through an old video and you saw one for, say, the Minneapolis Sky Sox, and you say, hey, I can do one better than that, submit it, and we'll see if it makes the cut or not. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the future. Suel, one more time, thank you, dude. You're the man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on your channel.
All right, take it easy.